You're on.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Planning Board meeting for May 23rd, 2018. This meeting is being video and audio taped in compliance with the Mass Open Meeting Law. And first, before I get started, I would like to congratulate our new elected members. We have Erin Hunt, a new first-time member, Greg Damiano, an existing member, both won by landslide votes, I might say. And we also have Kevin Calcott, who is the newest elected member to the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you.
Kevin will be doing double duty.
All right.
That being said, first on the agenda, I would like to reorganize the board, which is our practice after the end of the year. And with that, I will mention that I talked to Walter over the past few weeks, and I asked him if he would consider taking the chairman's role, because he is our longest-standing member and has never served and had the dubious honor of sitting here. So Walter did agree to do that. So I would like to place a nomination for chairman, Walter Byron.
Second.
Discussion?
For my sins.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Next, we have vice chairman.
And I would similarly like to recommend the gentleman on my left, and who, by the way, has served for quite a while, and I think among all of us, perhaps with the exception of Betsy and maybe Rich, knows more about those little books than the rest of us combined. So I would like to move to nominate John Weddleton as the vice chair.
Second.
Discussion? No one else wants to try? All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have clerk of the board. Normal practice is to have our newest member be the clerk.
Sounds like hazing.
It's a milder form.
Yeah.
So, someone want to nominate anybody?
Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and nominate Erin Hunt to be the clerk of the planning board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Lastly, we have.
I got railroaded there.
Lastly, we have the CPC rep, which Greg has done a significant job and created bonds over the past year. So I'm not sure if Greg has the time to take it on again, or if somebody else new would like to try that. Comments?
Kevin might. I mean, he's got plenty of time.
Are you interested in doing one more year? Or do you not have the time? I know you get young kids.
Time's a little strapped. But if nobody else would like to volunteer or receive a nomination, I will, for lack of a better term, fall on the sword.
Does CPC interest you?
No, not at this time.
Okay. If you would take it, that would be great.
Okay.
So that being said, I'll nominate Greg Damiano to be a CPC rep for the next year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Thank
that'd
you.
be great.
Very good. That being said, I'm going to take the chairman's plate, switch it down, and we're all set to go.
All right. Very good. The first item on the agenda tonight is a gentleman who's asking for a continuance, so we need a motion to continue the open space special permit hearing until our next meeting, which is, by the way, Tuesday, June 19th. Well, let's settle that first.
Yep, if that works for everybody. I'll put it as
Hang on a second. Let's settle that first. 528. Look at your calendars, folks, and see if June 19th works.
For regular.
Yeah, that works. It works for me. It's
I
not
will
that-
be away that week.
You will be away that week, okay?
Tuesdays aren't great for me.
My wife will be away that week, so I would have to get sitter, which
So that week sounds like
How
it.
about
Is Tuesday a bad day for you?
Tuesday's bad for me until July.
Okay.
Wednesday the 27th is open. or Wednesday the 13th.
How about the 27th? That's roughly 4 weeks from today. Well, maybe 5, I don't know, I didn't count, but 27th work for everybody?
For me.
All right, that sounds like the next planning board meeting, okay?
Motion to continue the open space special permit for Fernridge Estates to June 27th at, is it 7 p.m.? 7 p.m.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that, next on the agenda is 7 Hill Street, who has just arrived. Hello, Jamie.
Good evening, Jamie Bissonette, Zenith Consulting Engineers for the record. Thank you. Okay.
Everybody's interested in like a one-part copy, what you guys want.
Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, thank you. Mr. Quagliari, as you know, only the member of himself can recuse himself. What we're dealing with is a letter from Mr. Quagliari requesting that John Weldon recuse himself from acting on the site plan review of 7 Hill Street, which is the next item on the agenda. So as you know, only the member himself can decide to recuse himself, and I will ask John, are you going to recuse yourself?
No, I'm not.
So with that said, I propose that Mr. Bissonette stand up and talk to us about the most recent revisions to 7 Hill Street.
Absolutely. Good evening again, Jamie Bissonette, Zenith Consulting Engineers. Since our last meeting, we've made a number of revisions at the request of Beta and the board from the last hearing. I'd be happy to go over those changes with you, try to explain them.
Please do.
And field any questions you might have. One of the biggest things that we took from the last meeting was the fact that you wanted us to reduce the number of parking spaces on the plan. And so we've done that. We've actually reduced them. The ratio now actually comes out to about 2.3 per each unit, which is less than the 3.0 that we had before. So we did reduce a number of spaces. The spaces, as you can see, gave us more green area in the southern center of the site here. And so in lining that up, the other thing that we did was, one of the comments was getting trash for trash pickup out to the roadway. So what we've done is we've put in these little walking areas here. So when we do have trash pickup, they'll have areas that they can walk out and bring the trash out for the trucks. So it gives us a little bit of space, a little bit of a convenient benefit that we had from minimizing the parking numbers.
Does that mean that they've got to be there when the truck arrives?
No, not the homeowners themselves. It's going to be private trash pickup. So there'll be something arranged. They may have to put the trash receptacles out in front of the buildings, but right now what we're planning on is we're actually trying to work in some kind of a cubby into the side of the first floor, into the house. So the trash barrels or units would be into the side enclosed, so they wouldn't be visible. But when it came time for trash pickup, they could be taken out. Let's see, Betsy, can we go to the next sheet if we could? Veda had referenced drainage. They wanted to have us perform a couple of test pits in this vicinity. We went out, we found nice soil, but again, it wasn't perfect coarse sand. So what we did was we changed the design to be conservative. So this is based on a sandy loam. So what we did was we went with a larger chamber, more units, to handle that and be able to put Beta's mind at ease on that. So I think that they'll be quite happy with the change on the drainage design, the increase in capacity and infiltration volume. Let's see. We also correlated that to the other drainage elements as well for just uniform characteristics. They had some references to the water main with hydrants. One of the comments, I believe, was to put the hydrant up close to the building over in here, but that's actually against national fire regulations. So we kept it where the fire chief wanted out here, but we did we did add a hydrant, which they were requesting out closer to the road.
Beta request.
Beta did it, and I believe the water review environmental services.
PPG, yeah.
Yes, I think that they had referenced it in their letter as well. I'll be honest with you, they're 50 feet apart. I think it's redundant at best. But that being said, we want to keep the fire chief happy, and it is what it is. Can we go to the next sheet, Betsy, please? Landscaping. This thing's gotten a huge boost from us. We have over 100 proposed trees and shrubs on site here. Now, and that's not counting the individual plantings in the front landscape areas, which we have a detail on our detail sheet D2. You'll see what we've done is we're proposing a nice, what we're calling a living fence. These are Leyland Cypress that run all along. We're spacing them roughly 8 foot center to center. They should grow into a nice living fence together. And then what we're doing is we're spacing red maples and sugar maples, I believe, going down on this so they'll grow up a little taller and they'll provide a nice aesthetic view.
How tall will the other ones grow?
The Leyland Cypress, they're like an arborvitae. Or,
Dozen feet, something like that?
yeah, probably. In that ballpark, 8, 10, 12 feet. I mean, they can be groomed. We expect that they'll grow into one another nicely. And then we've tried to work in some shrubs, some rhododendrons and things like that for, just for aesthetic value around the site. And you can see where we reduced the parking in here, we're able to add more plantings.
Has the landscape revisions been looked at by the design review board?
That's correct,
They
yes. Yep, this was brought into the meeting last week. I was not at the meeting. They actually, one of the comments was they were looking for maybe some additional landscaping. I'm not really sure where we put it on here. I think there's a lot here. Realistically, when we've got screenage that we're wrapping around the majority of the site. This is wooded back here, and then we're running living fence and trees all along here, in some cases in a double row. And then out in the front here, we also have trees and trees and trees, and then on each of our units as well. So, I mean, we're going to have a tremendous amount of landscaping.
Well, I'm not putting words in their mouth, but didn't they want more shrubbery along Hill Street? Wasn't that the issue?
I believe that was the case down in this vicinity, that they wanted some more. We have drainage and some utilities down in this vicinity.
Well, let me summarize if I may, but you don't
Sure.
mind.
No, not at all.
Because I'm on the zone. So I think the request as the landscape were related was to put some evergreen trees here. There was some concern about a neighbor over here screening one way or the other. So it wouldn't necessarily be more trees, it could just be different species of trees. The other request, again, we should check the design review board on that, but that's my interpretation of what was suggested. The comments for this line were, not necessarily more trees, but varying the trees. So whether the spacing wasn't necessarily a true line, maybe it was a zigzag. And there was some concern over the height of these trees with the steep slope of the site. The trees will effectively create a fence, but they won't effectively create a visual screen because these are all raised decks. So the people sitting on these decks will be looking right over those trees into the houses down below, which might not be a problem we can solve. I understand the sloping. But it does seem that there are some taller trees here,
There are, yep.
which is nice to see. I didn't pick those up at the design review board meeting, so that will certainly help. And the other request was that instead of having all of these trees be the same height, maybe every other tree was a different age. So if this was a 5-year-old tree, this was an 8-year-old tree, et cetera, as you go down the line. So
Was that on the Leyland Cypress or was that on the maples?
I believe it was intended to be the cypress. That's what I remember anyway. But again, the letter came out today, I think. So I don't,
Yeah, I got it
Yeah.
late today as well.
Yeah. And then while I'm at it,
Sure.
another recommendation was to take these 5 spots and move them here.
Yep.
And then make this a planted area, so there was a larger green area
Mhm.
that extended into the site. It didn't interrupt any of the turning radii or anything, kept the same number of spaces, it just created a bigger green space. So,
That was actually one thing we did look at.
Yeah.
So the architect who was at the meeting came back with some notes. And again, I wasn't there firsthand, but he did have a sketch of the parking changed like that. We looked at it from a standpoint of function for the units in the long term for us, and trying to see when we have visitors that come, where they're going to be accessing, trying to make it so they're not walking at quite as far. And what we were looking at was we have a nice amount of parking over in here and in front of the units. And so we're kind of splitting up the visitor parking over in here. We were looking at it and trying to minimize somebody having to walk from maybe and down this point over to here or up into these vicinity here. So we felt keeping this and having this larger landscape area was something we would prefer to do, if the board is amenable with that.
Aaron, what's a 5-year tree and a 7-year tree?
I don't know, I was making up numbers.
I'm gonna say, well, you find
Different age
normally
trees
by
was the
caliber,
point,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It just was, because that's a long line of trees, I think the concern was is
Well, you could
it would
do.
look more natural if there was
for-
some
for-
variation in the height.
If you did white pines or something where they're so close to the back of those decks, those would grow and they'd probably end up
Taller,
interfering with the deck, yeah. So it really is limited.
I mean, in thinking about it, it's a significant investment in landscape.
It is.
And what you get out of it, the end result of it, I don't think is going to be achieved. Because those trees, I don't think are going to be tall enough to screen anything really from the house to the house. I mean, it will effectively create a visual barrier and a fence, I get it entirely.
Yeah.
But I think for the people sitting on those decks and the decks down below, they're going to still be looking at each other. So.
Yeah, I think, well, the decks below, I agree, they'd have to look up on an angle. I'm not 100% sold that the trees themselves won't help obscure some of it. The thing that we like about the Leyland cypresses being planted at the same time is they're all going to mesh into one another. They're gonna create that fence over the next few years. The reason that we put the maples on the other side is to provide shade, to provide some diversity of aesthetics, understanding that it's got to break things up. I mean, I've been in front of this board enough to know that these are the things that you guys look for. And so, again, we thought that this was kind of our best concept on this area. And if you can, Betsy, can we go to the last sheet, which is detail sheet 2, while we're talking of landscaping? Perfect. You can see up on the top left, we have our typical unit landscaping detail in which we're trying to work in, whether it be a dwarf-style tree or a holly, some flowering, some flowers, perennial flowers, and some other bushes and the like. And also we've tried to work in some dwarf Japanese maples, which we show on the landscaping plan as well, but our numbers aren't accounting for the thing in the mulched area here, which would be another dwarf tree or a holly, to kind of make the fronts look nicer of each unit. Also trying to break it up with a mulched area and then a lawn area as well to add some character. We want to be able to add some flow, curves to the front of it, not just have straight lines, not just have round circles or big rectangular areas. We're trying to mix it up because no one wants this to be more attractive than the owners, because that's going to obviously help with their business model for the site. Another thing that we were asked for was the lighting. And I believe the DRB was comfortable with the residential style lighting that we're looking to use. We're looking for something somewhere around 8 feet in height, nothing to be ridiculously bright. We're just looking for something to provide safe lighting for people that are parking their cars or visitors that are walking out to their vehicle at night. We'd probably utilize an LED style bulb inside of it, and with LED bulbs we can typically have directional lighting. But this unit in particular doesn't shine upward, so dark sky regulations would be adhered to with this fixture. Can we go a couple of sheets back, please? The erosion control plan hasn't changed. One before. Landscaping. Oh, the other thing, we were asked about a sign. We've added a sign to the front. We're thinking a wooden sign with a couple of granite posts at the entrance in this vicinity here. So it would be visible as you're driving up. Nothing large or too large. Something that's gonna fit in with the site, but also that looks nice. We kick back the idea of an engraved stone. I just don't think it's gonna stand out enough for people that are coming to visit. And I know there was a concern about extra people driving up the road, so I think a sign out on the street that's a little more pronounced, but not overly pronounced, would be a better option than a stone. I guess if we can go to the first detail sheet, so down 2 sheets, Betsy, and probably be able to wrap it up for questions. One of the questions also was to change I believe the catch basin structures to 5 foot inner diameter, which we did. So we made a few revisions to the actual construction details at Beta's request. We were happy to do so. We're happy to try to address any questions or concerns you might have.
Well, I turn to board members. But, Aaron?
I guess I'll stick to the original comment on the parking. I mean, I've made my case in the landscape. I don't need to go there anymore, but I do, again, I think this is a very large asphalt field, and I think that the feel of the neighborhood would be more successful if there was more green in the middle of the field. I mean, I recognize you're just displacing it, but I think moving these 5 parking spaces down here would be a major benefit to that parking lot. So it's, I think that remains the extent of my comments at this point.
So you would have them be right off of the entrance and the exit there?
Yeah, I mean, if you remember the last time we saw this, there were 5 more spaces here and 4 or 5 more spaces here. We asked them to reduce the number, so they essentially got rid of those 9 or 10 spaces. And I'm just saying, again, I'm not asking them to reduce the count anymore. I would just take the 5 they put here and put them here so that this becomes a green area that might actually get used, whereas this is just, this is just a big green area by the street. So.
Greg, anything that you'd like to add? Good. Kevin?
I don't know. On the other side of that coin, I kind of like the fact that from the street view, you're seeing the green space as you're driving by, as opposed to having to be something that only the people inside would be able to see.
One of the things we took into account, if I may, is the lowest point on our parking spots is right here. So elevation difference, if you have groceries and you're trying to get them to one of these units, it's just for a convenience thing, we think, for our customers. We think that this is just, I completely understand with having a potential row of trees. We didn't feel it outweighed this option for us, but we did. We really looked at it and went back and forth on it.
Aaron, was there anything else from a design review board standpoint?
There was much conversation about the decks and understanding how they come down to grade and the amount of stairs that are required. There was some conversation about snow storage and some site access. There was a lot of conversation about color. There were some material boards and renderings that were presented that are worth seeing if you haven't seen them. Each unit was given a color, so all the material selections were discussed, trim colors. Some fencing materials. That was about it. It was actually a nice little package of drawings. So.
How did the snow discussion end up? Where's the place to put the snow?
So in our report that we submitted and emailed over, we actually have on the last page, I believe, we've redlined some snow storage areas. Do you have that large report I gave you tonight?
There was some comment about the amount of exposed foundation too, but I think the architect said he'd work to address that.
It'll be on the sheet here in this large report. I'm guessing nobody was going to reprint this anyway.
Yeah, well, we'll just take it for a second.
There you go. So the red areas are where we're,
okay.
you know, we've gone lighter on the landscaping in those areas. We're planning on perennial flowers, so we can utilize that for snow storage. And we've deliberately left out the shrubs in those vicinities. So for example, you'll notice that this area is blank of shrubs, and that's for snow placement. Also over in this vicinity in here and in this vicinity here, same exact point. Thank you.
Is that, sir?
Yes, I'm good, thank you.
John?
Jamie, what's the side setback on the buildings?
The side setback,
Yeah.
you go, I believe it's sheet number 3. One more. I believe it's 25 feet is the requirement. And in
Between
some
buil-
cases, we get pretty close.
Between buildings?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, in between buildings. I believe that we're spacing these somewhere around 11 feet to 12 feet apart.
And these little circles here by the buildings, are those trees? Looks like beside the walkway, these here?
Yes, sir, those are dwarf Japanese maples.
Yeah, so that'll break up the density, looking at from the street also.
I
right?
agree.
And last question, what about the, did you guys work things out with the water department?
Well, we have.
I saw the recommendation that they wanted you to run a line down 650 feet, which I thought was kind of punitive for a project like this, you know? I don't think the applicant should be spending money doing 650 feet especially we're going to have the water connection fee, so you might want to talk with Bob McGee and work something out. I don't think we want to, Walter?
Yeah.
We don't want to require 650
No,
feet, right?
no,
I don't think so. So maybe you could work something out with the DPW and see if you come to agreement at what works for both sides.
I
you know.
appreciate that, yeah.
I think the looping might be a good idea. We are going down, give these folks more pressure, but aside from that, overall though, I'm sure this is out of character for me, but I think it's a great setup. I didn't think that you could have this many units fitted on 2 acres this tastefully. And I think the elimination of the parking is a big help. And I actually like the idea of the setup with the walkouts in the back and the way these things are somewhat staggered. I think it has a lot of appeal for putting this many units into a, what's it, 2 acre lot?
Roughly, yes.
Yeah, so it actually, this setup here makes the lot look much bigger, actually. And they get a lot of green space between the sections of building and along the back, so I think it works fine.
Thank you.
I think somewhere we picked up too that in one of the reports, at least in the beginning, the intent is for the fellow who's developing this to own the place and rent these
That's correct.
as opposed to condos or whatever, yeah.
That is correct, yep.
Okay.
I have another comment. Affordable housing. We're over 10 units, right? So we're required to have a affordable unit?
Yep,
One.
one affordable unit.
Have you figured out which one of those is going to be yet, or it's too early to do that?
I don't have an opinion. Wherever you want it, it's fine by me.
I think that the only thing we require, Rich, is just how many occupancies are done before the affordable, correct? We're looking
Yeah.
at where it goes.
So we'll have to, we'll have to do a separate application for the affordable through that after this, but,
Yeah, that's not going to be a sticking point on our end.
yeah. Okay.
Yep, we understood that there was going to be one,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's no surprise.
And we'd like to note also that one of your harshest critics in the past is now in your camp and very comfortable with this, and she's sitting right there.
That makes us very happy.
All right, any other comments or questions? Rich, you all set?
No, as you know, Ada's working through the review, and I think things should be in order. It was suggested that they'll continue the review, but in the meantime, I think we got good feedback from the board. We can work towards putting approval together for the next meeting for the board in advance. We've done that a few times, and
Yep,
kind of keeps things moving along so you don't lose time.
right, okay.
Elizabeth Whitney, 26 Valley Street. Will any of the pine trees, the tall pine trees on the property remain? Or are they all? Even the line across, is the line as you look down on the condos, that
Yeah, no, those,
they have to
they
go?
do, because of the grade changes.
They couldn't survive.
The traffic that's gonna, I'm gonna get yelled. The traffic that goes over that area during construction will most likely compromise the routes, even if we could save them logistically. Yeah, and then, I mean, they're so tall, we'd have to worry about them then falling over. So, but that's why we're doing a large amount of compensation and landscaping.
Okay, so we need any other comments from people in the audience? Questions? All right, then we need a motion to continue this special
Motion to continue.
permit, site plan hearing until June 27th, wasn't that? What is it?
Yep.
27th at 7:15, let's say, or 7:10.
Motion to continue until June 27th, but appropriate time.
Second? Somebody?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
7:10.
7:10, all right, 7:10 it is.
7:10. Yeah, sure. If you want.
Can you just let them know I left them a message?
Okay.
I was figuring I could explain some of the
He was
changes.
already on this for a couple of days.
Yeah,
No worries.
yeah, sure, I'll let them know. Yep.
Have a good night.
All right, Jamie,
Good
thank you.
night, Jamie.
Good night.
All right, the next item is 96 Pond Street, limited site plan modification.
I do.
And microphone, please, sir. Not for us, but it's for folks at home.
This working?
There you go.
All right, we submitted this.
Identify yourself, please, sir.
Oh, I'm Joe LaRusso, the owner.
Sure.
We submitted this a few years ago, and for whatever reasons, we didn't get it done.
Do we need to read it in?
Oops,
Is this
excuse
opening
me.
the public hearing? Are we opening the hearing?
We should open the hearing, and I missed that step, so if you'll pause just a second, our former clerk will now read the public notice into the record.
Notice is hereby given that in accordance with Mass GL Section 40A and the Norfolk zoning bylaws Section F11, a public hearing will be held on Wednesday, May 23rd, 2018 at 7:20 p.m. in room 124 at the Norfolk Town Hall, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Mass, relative to a limited site plan modification for property located at 90 Pond Street in Norfolk, Mass. The applicant, Joseph J. LaRusso II of Pond Street LLC, is proposing modification of the previously modified site plan to increase the length of the building 5 feet and relocate the loading dock. The property is located in the C1 zoning district, reference Assessor's Map 19, Block 69, lots 27 and 47. The plan and application are available for public inspection in the office of the Norfolk Planning Board during the hours of 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Thursday.
Thank you. Now you may continue.
Okay,
Thank you.
as was just read by Kevin, the only major changes were, we added 5 feet this end of the building, just because it's more saleable with 30-foot bays, so there'll be 6 of them. And we just moved the loading dock over to here, and those were the 2 primary changes.
Right.
Everything else remains as it was approved a few years ago. And I think we had come in for a minor modification. I think we originally, way back when there was 2 buildings, 6,000 and 7,500.
Yep.
We've cut it, at one point, we cut it back to 10.5, and then just with that extra 5 feet, it gave us the 300 to go to 10.8, and that's really all we're asking for.
Right.
Everything else would remain the same as it was approved previously.
And you've had a chance to sit and talk to our planner, and the planner's reviewed these, and
I have. I sent out a previous review letter to the board and the applicant, and the revised plan set addressed those comments that were raised. It was really simply to reference the most recent A&R plan that was approved, and make sure the calculations reflected that based on that requirement, and to just verify the calculation for the landscaping to make sure that complied, which it did, so.
right. So your recommendation is that the board approve these as minor modifications?
As a minor modification. The only reason why I thought of doing the hearings because the lapse of the permit,
Yeah.
but beyond that, they seem to be in order.
Do we need to extend the permit, or is the permit still valid?
No, essentially tonight, if you approve it, this would be the move forward date with the new permit.
Okay,
So-
right, fine. Questions from the board members?
No, it's fine to me.
That's good to me.
Any questions from the audience or comments?
What are we approving?
Approving the minor modifications of extending 5 feet on the building and moving the loading dock.
And essentially, we have even cut down on the impervious too, which is,
Really, what percent coverage have we got now? Yeah, I know.
ask me a question I can't answer. It's less.
A little less, right. It must have been 60% or less before, otherwise it wouldn't have got approved.
Oh, yeah, so it's
Yeah, it's
probably-
at 33%,
There you go,
and
okay.
60 is the allowable.
Okay.
So where's the front of the building?
The front of the building would be facing
Pond Street.
Pond Street.
I'm sorry, I'm a little out of the loop, I guess. And it's a commercial building intended to be leased to whoever leases it? As retail or office?
Actually, I have somebody who might want the whole building for rent. He'll have some office and for his own stuff, for his own business.
Not a retail user, more
No,
commercial, right?
no, he wouldn't be retail there.
I mean, it's just an odd arrangement from a retail scenario with parking behind the front of the building, so you'd be walking into the back of the building unless it had two fronts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more designed for a contractor, more
Right?
light.
So we don't know what the building looks like based
Oh,
on
we
the
do,
submittal.
yeah, we do have,
Yeah, there were pictures submitted, et cetera,
do we have?
a while ago. Go way back, Betsy.
So does this have to go back to the DRB?
The building design is remaining the same as it was approved back.
If the permit lapse since renewed?
Yeah,
There's
there'll
no,
be door fronts, there'll be doors, windows in the front.
does anything change in the building that would trigger it back to design review?
Or was it reviewed the first time?
Yes,
Yeah, this was done back in, originally 2008.
yeah, we had a split block face, and, then you'd have the steel part of the the steel building pieces on the side and the back.
May not have electronic, but we have the hard
I
copy
don't
though.
think I have them electronically.
Question from the audience there?
I can't read the upper right corner to figure out where are we? Are we on the former radio station side or across from?
You got the radio station side, then you have the C&E auto body, and then right next door.
There's just the apron
Yes,
off the street.
Right.
Okay. So does it all come right along Pond Street, or is it behind
No, it'll
the
be all-
auto body?
it'll be along Pond Street. Facing Pond Street, with all the attendant gardening and trees and shrubs and lawn.
Who's
Right.
who's the neighbor behind you? Is it Mass Audubon or the town
No.
conservation
no,
land?
It might be the radio station that goes around back there.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it is, the radio, according to the drawing, it's a radio station.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Former radio station.
Former, well, yes.
I built that radio station in 77 or 8. WJMQ with Jack Quinlan. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
We can forward you essentially it's a metal building with,
I'll be split block up.
split block up,
Forget how high. 18
windows.
feet.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
We're gonna have the bronze aluminum doors and windows, so if somebody did have a small office section, that was planned originally.
Yeah.
Unless this fellow takes the whole building and however much he wants for office space.
And this has been through the design review board back in
it was
08.
way back when,
Yeah,
in
okay.
2000,
Well, I brought them in a bunch of block samples and
2007.
yeah, I don't know if you had a picture of it at one point.
Probably in the file, I'll have to.
We can forward it to you. So you can
I
take
mean, if it's reviewed and done, it's a done deal, but
Yeah, there's no,
Let me put it this way. I'm gonna own it,
yeah,
and I'm not looking at a piece of junk out there.
yeah, yeah.
My brother and I always call it the POO factor, P-O-O, pride of ownership.
There you go. Are you uncomfortable with what you've heard in terms of the description?
No, it's just a curious relationship. I mean, the front of the building is facing the street,
Yeah.
but we put trees in front of it. So, I mean, in reality, there'll never be a pedestrian access off into the front of the building. So I'm curious as to the amount of money that would be spent creating a front of the building that's never going to be used. But
It would be
that's
visible.
it's my own
Well,
curiosity.
it would be visible from the street, presumably.
Well,
I mean, the trees won't screen the whole thing.
well,
You wanna have
I
some
don't
eye
know. I
appeal
mean,
from the
there's
street.
quite a few trees there too, so.
yeah, it's really trying to create a front face to it that kind of softens the building, because it really is this type of use is more backloaded to the site, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an odd condition, because I wouldn't argue that it should be the back of the building facing the street. So, I mean, I don't have an end to my logic here. So I'm just sort of talking out loud, but.
Well, given the setbacks, we have to have, I believe it's 70 feet back,
Yeah.
so that starts to preclude things too.
Are the DRB notes?
Yep, from 2008.
All right.
Is 70 feet everywhere kind of setback commercial?
Well, at least
Uh,
along the section of Rhode Island.
And that section there. It depends what zone. But the C1 zone, yeah. Oh, there you go.
Been better off not finding it.
Oh, you're tough.
Not to be a wise guy, what would you rather see? I mean, input is always valuable. Did you bring that up again, Betsy? Oh.
And I guess I'm just thinking like the building that's currently being worked on across the street, right?
Well, he's got a low ceiling.
Yeah.
This, if it was a contractor and you wanted to have, say, palletized storage, you really need that 20-odd feet.
Yeah. It's not a height thing, it's a character thing, right? It's
Yeah.
like, this looks like, pardon my French, it looks more like a warehouse, right? I recognize we're in a commercial district and it's
Right.
a business and that's the intent,
Well,
so be it, that's
I'm not
fine.
gonna tell you what is gonna happen, but you're never gonna tell, we could wind up doing, drive it along that, which looks a little better. And if this fellow takes the space that I'm talking to, we might have windows up in here too,
Be
which
nice.
starts to soften it. And again, getting ambient light into the back of the building isn't the worst thing either.
All those things would be good.
I hope, puts a little more money in the taxes.
All right, any further comments? I think we need to have a motion to accept these as a minor modification, are we not?
Close the public hearing.
Well, in which order?
Close the public hearing.
Okay, all right. Well, all right, take a motion to close the public hearing for the limited site plan modification for 90/96 Pond Street.
So moved.
Second? Second, all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Now, we need a motion to accept these as a minor modification to the site plan. So,
Motion to approve 9096 Pond Street as a minor modification.
Second?
any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. There you go. Now, before you go, there's one other issue I'd like to just touch on. I've discussed it with the gentleman to my left here. Could you put the first drawing up there?
Sure, the site plan?
Yeah, the site plan, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that fella, okay.
Nope, that right there, that's it.
That one, yeah, that's good. Don't move it. You'll notice that the middle chunk there is a non-buildable lot. I guess it's determined to be non-buildable because it's full of ledge, right?
No,
No?
this is a long story.
Well,
No,
okay.
it's not. I'll shorten it up.
Okay,
I had a friend of mine approach me. This was originally 10 acres, including this piece here.
yep,
And he approached me, he said, geez, let's make a deal. So we talked and we made a deal. But then he bought this piece up off of, I guess it's Shire Road.
yes.
So he bought that piece. He says, well, now I don't need this piece. So I went to, like, as Richard knows, I was in there with Form A's, like, or A&Rs, like every other week, it seemed. And so his frontage will come off of that Shire Road circle that way up at the end.
Yep.
So it won't be non-conforming, but at the moment it is. And literally, we just passed papers today. So he's all set. So now I have another buildable lot. It's only about 4,000 feet for that lot.
Well, the issue I wanted to bring up was, it doesn't look like there's any right-of-way through that center section back out to Pond Street. Is that correct?
Through this piece right here?
Yeah,
Well, there was, but there isn't.
there was. The town had a...
No, until he didn't want to do this.
Right,
Oh, you mean from the Shire Road through?
Right.
No,
right.
no.
Now, what I've been led to believe is that it's somewhat an academic issue, since that center section is full of ledge and it would cost a small fortune to run the road through there. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what my fellas tell me here.
Well, at one time, I wanted to put a road all the way through. But the town wanted me to build 300 or 400 feet of Shire Road that fella never built.
Yeah,
So I cut it back to 500, and then I actually came in with this better plan after my friend approached me for this.
right, okay.
So, and then it would be a cut-through for everybody. They'd be running up there to beat the light at 1A and 115, so
Well, that's true, but some speed bumps would slow that down.
don't talk about speed bumps. We got them on Everett Street. That's another story.
Yeah, I know. Some like them, some don't.
But I appreciate your approvals, and anything else you need to know,
So what I'm hearing is down the road sometime, you're not adverse to running a road through there?
the what?
You're not adverse to running a road through there at some point?
I
If
don't
it-
own that lot anymore.
Oh, who owns it?
Tony Andriassi and Dennis Brolin. They're planning to use this for whatever they've got planned.
So it's still in the commercial district?
Yes. It's in the C1 off-highway.
Oh, I was working under the assumption that that was still your piece of property.
No, literally, we've been dealing with it for 2 or 3 months, and when they finally closed on that piece, off of Shire, they said, well, we don't need this. I said, well, okay. So, my plans are, just so I have nothing to hide, I want to do this building, and then I have plans for 2 more here, and then possibly 1 there. It's, you know, and I want to make them as attractive as I can, and if you have, no, listen, is it for Aaron?
Aaron, yeah.
Okay. If you have some ideas, I'm welcome to listening to them. You know, I want to make it attractive, again, because of the poo factor. Oh, my brother and I laugh about that all the time. Well, think about it.
Yeah, I think if you did bring a proposed design of one of those buildings to us and we referred it to the DRB would give you a good feel for, you know, we like this, we don't like that.
Well, they did approve that.
Yeah, I understand, but that's 8 years ago. There's a different cast of characters now. You know how that goes.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Well, I mean, just off the top too, is there a financial benefit to you to build 3 buildings instead of 1 larger building?
Not necessarily. You dip your toe in the water, and then maybe you work your way up to your waist. And
From a leasing standpoint?
yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure they'll all rent, but I wanted to get this one started first.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for your time
welcome.
tonight.
Welcome, thank you, board, and I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Good night.
Motion to approve it.
Thank you.
All right, good.
Yep, the close of May.
All right. All right.
It's a harsh transition. to go
So
from
then,
preservation land in Pond Street to commercial district.
I'm sorry, what?
It's a harsh transition to go from preservation land in Pond Street
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
commercial district.
yeah, well, some
It is what it is.
decisions that were made years ago that we're living with, you know? Okay, the next item on the agenda is associate member appointment interview with this gentleman. Hi there.
Is this working? It is. Well, I've been here many times, probably because I moved into the Fox Run development on the other side of town. But I do come to a lot of the planning board meetings, even some of the zoning board meetings. Been a member of the town for 23 years now. I wrote a quick memo. I don't know if everybody got that. And I'm not really sure what the roles and responsibilities are, but I've always had an interest and a passion for participating in town planning and proper execution and growth of the town.
And what's your background in terms of work experience?
Yeah, I'm a mechanical engineer by training. I have a bachelor's degree from Roger Williams University and a master's from WPI. Most of my my last 10, 11 years in business was working for major medical device companies. I worked in commercial products as well for 10 years for Duracell and Gillette, and many other jobs before that. So I probably had about 30 jobs, all related to mechanical engineering, bringing products to the market, research and development for new product development.
Sure. Okay. Good.
So I think what I would bring is perhaps a different perspective. I've had different times in my life where I've been involved in construction, either of my own residence and also commercial buildings. I've built a modular building in the past, as well as done a lot of renovation. Most of that was in the town of Boston.
Okay.
Yeah, during the Fox Run debacle over 2 years, Gary was a regular attendee, and he's probably being modest. He has a knack to read the plans and discover and come up with many comments that help us in discovering there was no drainage there and where to put it and all the ramification of it. So obviously you can read plans pretty well.
Sure.
Yeah, I've always had the ability to look at drawings and get right to the point, I guess.
Yeah, well, I remember you in some of those discussions as well. So. Questions from our board members?
Are you also on the board, the homeowners association board of Fox Run, or was that the other?
No, there's 3 individuals. Their positions are kind of rotating as time goes on. I think there was this huge mass of people all interested in being elected to those positions, and it's been so burdensome. I don't think there'll be anybody looking to take their place at the end.
How it works out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Sounds great in the beginning,
Yeah.
until problems show up.
Well, I think, I was told we're taking Pulte to court over the wastewater treatment plant because it was somewhat under-designed, and now we have to replace a major portion of it. That's ongoing right now.
In terms of, if we were to accept your proposal and nominate you as a associate member, it's first of all, it's a joint appointment. We have to get the selectmen to agree as well. Secondly, there are certain things that you can vote on and certain you can't, and Rich could help us with that, describe to him.
You would be sitting as a member for special permits when they come up, so you would, as Aaron probably could attest, you sit there and then sometimes you're called in to vote and sometimes you're not, but it's just for special, but you participate.
in the hearing.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Well, it is a very good learning opportunity.
Yeah.
Is
to
it
be able
all
to do-
special permits, or is it only in the absence of?
Any special permit, it could sit, it's just a matter of, you know, if there was
Votes
a,
needed.
if the vote is needed,
right,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
My final question is, after you serve as an associate member, any aspirations of running in the actual election for a full seat?
It's of interest, sure, but right now I don't know what I don't know, I guess, and it's, you know, when I go onto the website and I look at things like the master plan and some of the other documents, I think I have an awful lot to learn at this point, so I'm not,
Don't we all?
I'm not sure about the next step just yet until I absorb an
books.
awful lot of material. Memorize that verbatim and I'm all set, right?
Right, there'll be a quiz later, right, yeah. Every meeting there's a quiz, right?
As John so eloquently put it, the debacle that you've been a part of for the better part of, what, 3 years now?
Well, I moved in 5 years ago, but the problem occurred probably 3 years ago now, yeah.
How would you say that experience may have shaped your vision for development in the town or the future of the town moving forward?
Wow, that's, how would it have shaped me? I guess I would be a little bit, I guess I would have a lot more questions for a lot of the major developers. And I think over my life, I've seen things evolve from small developers building 1 and 2 houses at a time. It seems like everything that's going on right now is 100 houses or something like that. Right across the street from where I live, on the Rentham side, there's another development where they've stripped everything away. It looks an awful lot like where we currently live. The tracks are going in right now. So I guess even in my statement and my expression of interest was around proper development and guidance, and I hear that resonate in this meeting each time I sit here. You know, some of it's about planting trees, sure, and keeping the appearance of the town. We moved here 23 years ago. It was a small town, had a small town feel. It's starting to lose that. I'm hoping it doesn't continue in that direction. The whole Pulte thing, I guess if I was on the board at the time, I would have had an awful lot of questions for them. And some things I took for granted, you know, the wastewater treatment plant, I'm saying. And I took things for granted because I figured there are committees that know exactly how to build a wastewater treatment plant. And maybe that's not the case. And that was probably a bad thing to develop as part of our site. So, and I don't think it's a major problem. I'm not going to move up because of the wastewater treatment plant. I think if you took a consensus on everybody that's living in Fox Run right now, 90% of the people wouldn't buy another house from Pulte. I'm happy with where I live. We were lucky. We were the first ones to move in on the Norfolk side. Our house is set back, and I'm on a good piece of land. And my deal was a little bit different than the other people. I don't know if I answered your question, though.
You absolutely did. No, you're good. Thank you.
I think the interesting thing about the planning board is which I think we all talk about at different times, is it's not just dealing with the specific developments that are presented to us, but it's how to plan as a town to shape how those developments might get to us in the future. And that's the part that I'm excited about. So.
Yeah, I guess people have a right to develop the property they own, and my understanding is your role is to guide that properly with the policies that are already in place. And those policies, I assume, evolve over time. You know, I had a number of questions just looking at that. So it looked like a corrugated metal building. I know some towns don't even allow that anymore, but we do have them elsewhere in the town. But those things do evolve sometimes.
Any further questions from?
Nope, I'm all set.
Not for me.
Anybody care to make a motion to,
Yeah, I'll make a motion to appoint Gary Sear to our associate membership for a period of 1 year.
a second, anybody?
Not that I'm necessarily opposed to appointing Gary, but is there a process that we have to go through and by which we advertise or look for other applications, or has that already been done?
I think normally if we find someone willing to serve, we
just
appoint
let
them.
them.
I'll follow on that by saying, are we appointing and the selectmen are confirming, or are we recommending to the selectmen?
It's a joint vote. Each person has one vote. Kevin's in an unknown position now.
He's got a vote and a half.
Normally, if the planning board, the selectmen are only 3, so, yeah.
We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
So
you.
we will put your nomination to the selectmen and let you know.
Okay.
When's the next selectmen's meeting?
Tuesday.
So perhaps you can join us at the next meeting then if they vote that, so you can
Okay.
start right away.
Tomorrow.
2 p.m.
I don't have to move seats, do I?
Sorry, what?
I don't have to move seats, do I? I don't like this seat.
No, but you can't get out from under being secretary, though.
Oh, clerk, yeah.
Clerk, right.
So assuming everything moved forward
Yes.
properly and I become an associate member, what are near-term objectives? What is it that I should be doing?
Well, I think
Learning.
you ought to go sit with Rich and Betsy, and
Yeah.
they'll give you the appropriate documents. You can thumb through those, and as you said, memorize them, of course, and become as familiar as you can, and just get onto our calendar and show up. And
Okay.
it's a lot of it is learning on the job.
Yeah, I would say that reviewing some of the past meetings on YouTube was really helpful for me to get up to speed,
Okay.
but I'm pretty sure that you've been to more meetings than I've been to at this point, so I don't know exactly how helpful that'll be.
I'll do that as well. That sounds good.
And there are plenty of minutes if you care to, they're posted, you care to go through any of those, you're welcome to do that as well, if you think that'll help you.
And you can come in and we can kind of go through the special permits, the rules, and some of the general questions I think you've asked tonight about. We could talk a little bit more about the role, and it is a regulatory role. It's not, I think you touched on a little bit, I think a good fair amount of the public at large thinks that it's, people have property rights. They have rights to develop the property as well, so it's more the regulations of how you apply them. So we could talk a little bit about those regulations. And
Okay.
actually, the thing you had talked about with the treatment plant, we could talk about that, how, why that is and those different things, so you can get a better background on all the different.
That would go along with the same line that your subdivision was approved by consulting engineers, and yet 1,500 feet of drainage was left off the plan. That would go along with the same thing.
Yeah.
I think we got a three-pronged thing. Like Erin said, we're here to plan for the future. We have a task of making sure the people that come to us do the best site plan or subdivision possible within the regulations and rules and control we have with the special permit process. And what you learned firsthand is the need to get the roadways all supervised and built properly is so essential, because so much can go wrong, and we see it experience here. So when we miss something during the review of that process, then it causes problems for the town down the road, or the abutters, or both. So it's almost like a three-pronged review that we do. The most important part really should be the planning for the future, which is thrown off a little bit by some of the 40Bs, because they sort of bypass a lot of the planning and the rules. So
Yeah, I was going to mention the master plan, which is getting up there now and 10, 12 years old. But it's an interesting document to see what has and hasn't been done over the time since it was approved. It's available online at the town website.
Yeah, I had seen it, but
And
that's the
then,
future plan for the town.
Well, it was the future plan 12 years ago. We're at we're at the future.
For an update this coming spring, I believe, is when we're
Yeah,
going to
it's
be updating
due
the
for an
master plan.
update, right.
But as John mentioned too, the 40Bs, you know, the planning board doesn't necessarily have specific control over the 40Bs. It's more of a zoning board. Control is probably not the right choice of words there. But all of there's a lot of planning and thought going into what the right future is for housing and affordable housing in the state. And there's a lot of material out there to read about 40Bs and 40Rs and Smart Growth Alliance and all of that stuff. It's those key words you put in on a word search, and you'll get more reading than you are going to get through. But
Another role is that we play here is that occasionally we'll find a zoning bylaw that needs to be updated or changed or whatever, and we ask Rich to write it up, and we'll wordsmith it and make sure we're comfortable with it, and then put it forward into the warrant for the town
Are you guys
meeting.
aware of the new bill before the state legislature that what's involved is the governor is trying to create more dense housing? And what the bill basically entails, one of the main parts is, if town meeting gets a warrant article to create a zone where the housing can be more dense, then rather than having a town meeting vote required of 2/3, they're bringing that down to a majority. So
That's interesting.
the barrier to change our zoning will be lowered quite a bit based on that. So that right now, I think, is before the legislature.
Well, I mean, one of the things that is under consideration here is changing the zoning for the central B1 district, and we're considering that, and that would probably fit right in with what John is talking about.
the Southwood property is another big one that
Yeah.
I'd like to move up the priority list here. It's an 80-acre site on 1A. We spent 3 years negotiating. There's a lot of history there too, so.
I was going to ask if we're satisfying the 40B requirements right now as a town, or are we still subject? We're not.
The requirement's 10%, and we're about 2.5.
No, it's better than that.
We're higher than that. We're just under 4
It's
now.
under 4, yeah, just.
Technically,
Each time there's a 40B development, they're only satisfying the 10% of that.
25%.
25.
Satisfy
Yeah.
25%.
Unless they're building apartments for rental, in which case they do 25% affordable, they all count towards the subsidized housing inventory.
If it's a non-40B, that's where the 10% comes in.
Okay.
we're at 5.3% right now.
5.3, okay.
Oh, then it's approved.
But the denominator in that fraction changes every 10 years on the basis of the census, so it'll change again in 2020. And so that'll go up, and therefore the percentage, if we did nothing else, would go down.
And was there, I'm remembering the acronym, Housing Provisional Plan, the HPP, is that?
Right here. It's all approved.
That was
It's all
approved.
approved, but if you conform to that, does that satisfy the 40B requirements? or
No.
It still doesn't? Okay.
What the housing production plan allows the town to, when you're, it's 5%, you can, I think it's 5%, I'll have to double check, but you get safe harbor, so the town is in safe harbor right now because it did approve 5% rental, 40B units this past year, so it's safe harbor to December of 2018. And they approve another group, which there's enough before the Board of Appeals with at least one development. If that gets approved, the safe harbor could be extended for another year to December of 2019, which acts, and safe harbor allows you to, essentially, people can, the board could say no to new 40Bs. There are 40Bs that are in the queue right now waiting to be heard, so those will have to come forward, but newer ones from this point forward, the town could say no. The town also could say yes to a good project, so it gives the town a much better position. Just as any town, if they're over 10%, doesn't mean you say no necessarily. You have the opportunity to look for good quality projects, and the board could, the town could let those in. So that's a really key point of where the town is right now, because of, like I said, we're 5.3%.
So the planning board it tries to create a plan to satisfy the 40B, but if 40B is allowed to work through the state, they actually bypass the planning board, they go right to the zoning board?
Yes.
Because I was attending the Lawrence, I forget the name of the site, but on Lawrence Street.
Abbeville.
But I was going to those meetings for a while, and I think that that's stopped at this point, but they would bypass your board. Any 40B development like that bypasses your board.
Now, it's not to say that the ZBA couldn't reach out to us for input on certain aspects of the plan, if there was something such as with Abbeville, I believe we looked at the road structure and how that was laid out, so they can get our feedback, but we don't have any oversight over the project or any voting privileges as it pertains to the approval process for that project.
Okay. Yeah, I think they hired the same engineering group at some point. I thought I saw Beta Engineering was supporting
Doing the reviews,
board.
yeah. They still have to comply with Board of Health regulations, state regulations, and then the local regulations, they have to apply for waivers. Same thing with the Conservation Commission, they'll still go to the commission. Just from a planning standpoint, the zoning board becomes the permitting board for a 40B. So they don't bypass those other boards or commissions. But
And getting back to the density comment that you made, I actually heard that that same parcel of land could have supported 1,200 houses through 40B, and not just 200. I don't know if those would have been apartments, but if they maxed it out. So someone told me on the side, you should be thankful a person only applied for like 212 versus 1,200.
It's a big piece of land, yeah.
I think it was 50 acres. But, okay, so I've already learned a lot, and I've only been nominated. This is working out.
Stay tuned.
Well, good, thank you for volunteering.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
All right, sir, let's see. 67 Mills Estate Lot, endorse the Mylar plan. We can do that at the end of the meeting, can we not?
You can.
All right.
Yep, it's already been approved and everything. So.
Yep. Wright Farm Road, accept cost to complete provided by DPW, set bond amount, lot releases.
I will recuse myself from this and be available for questions.
Okey-doke. All right, so we have cost to complete bond preserve at Keeney Pond. Okay.
That's not your street, right?
What?
That's not your street, right?
It's so I live on the corner of Rice Farm and Castle. Do I have to recuse myself?
That's what I was wondering, if you had to or not.
No, you're not within 300 feet of this.
Okay.
Oh, is this further down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good question, though. Okay, so this is 105,820 to complete, cost to complete bond on Rice Farm Road.
Bless you.
Let's see, plan erase the following lots, 14, 15, 33, 34. Do we have a drawing of this in front of us here, guys? So we could look at the lots and know what we're looking at?
It's the last 5 lots of the junction of Keeney Pond Road and Rice Farm.
let's see on the. You can get into the.
Google map or.
Yeah. Did you have access to your file?
Yeah.
You have access to that subdivision file? Hold on a second.
Yeah, okay.
I was trying to pull up my phone, I couldn't.
Yeah.
So,
if you go to
Let's just
Google.
clarify what we're releasing. So we're releasing a sum of money because we're saying that the work we're holding.
We're setting the bond amount.
Setting the
if
bond
I'm not
amount.
mistaken.
Right, that's correct,
The
yeah.
cost to complete.
Setting the bond amount at 105,820.
Money gets posted, and then the releases get released.
Hmm?
I was just-
I don't have these plans electronically.
No? Okay. They're older,
It's
yeah.
too old.
Yeah, okay. We can go to Google.
Yeah, go to Google, let's at least get that up there, so.
Google it.
Is this not something that DPW would comment on?
The DPW prepared this, as I,
Yeah.
Prepared by DPW.
yeah.
Yeah, they're the ones that prepared the estimate and the
Oh.
cost, so.
I thought it was from John. so-
No,
No.
Well, yes is the answer.
I say we double it.
saw Bob this morning, was out there digging up bricks. Okay, so we're getting there, huh?
All right, John.
Basically, 3 lots on this side and 2 on this side.
That's my house. Okay. And that's the last, those are the last lots in the, yeah, okay. All right, so,
What? Yeah, where the search bar is in the corner.
This is the road that goes to town, right?
That answer the
That's,
question?
It does for me, yeah.
Okay.
Where the townhomes are on the top of the hill.
I don't see anything that raises any.
I don't either. Any
No,
questions?
I mean, we usually, trust in Bob to.
We do.
To, as long as he's signed.
It's his money, right?
Right, as
Yeah.
long as Bob has signed off on it,
Yeah.
then we concur,
We generally do concur, yeah.
so.
I mean, if it's really, really touchy, I imagine we'd invite Bob here to explain A, B, and C, but I don't think there's a need to do that. All right, so we need a motion to set the bond at 105,820 and to release lots numbers,
14, 15, 33, 34, and 35.
those are the ones.
I didn't get all those.
14, 15, 33, 34, 35.
Thank you. All right, I move to accept the cost to complete as provided by the DPW to set the bond amount at $105,820 and to release lots 14, 15, 33, 34, and 35 for Wright Farm Road.
Second.
Yeah, all right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Betsy, can you just zoom out a little bit?
Sure.
Yep, thanks.
Okay. All right, so the next item up is 14 Sharon Ave, Norfolk Police Headquarters and MECC discussion, additional solar canopies and change exterior paint scheme of masonry walls. What do we know about that, guys? Is nobody here to talk to that?
I'm gonna,
You're gonna be the person?
I'll be the point person for the
Okay.
facilities director
Yeah?
to,
Oh, that's what she sent me.
yeah, we'll pull up. So some of you may or may not know that when they put the police station out to bid, one of the things they were looking for was to have carports.
Mm-hmm.
And bids didn't come back favorably for carports. But in the meantime, there's been a decent amount of discussion about solar, And there's a company, Key Solar, who approached the town to put solar panels up on the police station roof, but also to do carport solar, as you probably have seen, probably traveling. Now you probably see them around. And I'll talk about Betsy's.
Sorry, I thought I would save that and
Oh, no. Oh, okay. All right.
I went.
Yeah, so I think this is good just to give you an idea of what, if you're not, you haven't seen them around.
I have not, actually. Oh,
Those are,
okay.
those are solar carports. So they're popping up in high school parking lots. They're popping up in commuter rail stations, office parks, all over the place.
Sure, makes sense.
And
doesn't
they,
it?
obviously, one added benefit, you can park your vehicle undercover and from a little bit of heat in the summer and the snow in the winter, and provide some solar power to, in the meantime, which the town will be entering into a agreement with them to provide solar power for the town. So it's a mutual benefit. We had a couple of different vendors that came in, and this particular company does it cost effectively. So do you want to have pull up the other plan, the actual site plan?
The card copy you have?
Do you have the electronic one from that? I forwarded it. So go back.
Oh, was
So if
it
you go,
was it attached to
yeah,
the email?
yeah, it's a
Okay.
different email. So
Different
we'll
email.
pull up the plans.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can see
so
the-
you see where they're gonna put them, yeah, and how many
Yeah.
there are, et cetera, right, okay.
That one. You gonna send it? Okay. Here, do you wanna pull up your email? Oh, email it to me.
We'll get there.
Not as fast as we want.
How's that working out?
It's good. It's really good. The other day, I spilled it higher than the water.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
So I went in, I was furious. I was like, oh my God, that everything got raised. It worked out fine.
You actually-
have to fight it to get it to come off.
No
so
kidding.
Everything worked out.
Good.
Refresh your email, hopefully, it's there.
There it is.
Ratio, what the fuck, I couldn't.
So share.
Microphone, please. Oh, geez. Here, hold on, I got him.
As long as the green light's on, it should.
Okay. So the Sharon Ave is to the lower part of the screen here. This section right here is where they want to put carport, the solar canopy, as well as here and here, those three locations.
What do they look like?
So if you want to go back to the, yeah, just pull it up.
Ratios.
See.
1 second.
It's a lot more carport than they had originally.
Yeah, way more.
Yeah, so this go around with the carport is,
Ratio.
the idea is to generate enough energy to power, to offset the power needs for the building. So that's what you're looking at. There is, as in any proposal, there's room if there's a sense this is too much.
That's really overwhelming to me. I mean, that's huge.
All right.
Now, is that the drawing of the company that has been selected to provide them?
Ratio.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
so this is
It's not just a typical one, that's the one that's gonna go up.
These are ones they've used in other installations, yeah, the company
right,
that's been selected.
That's like a double layer one too, so these are higher than the ones below it. You can kind of see them behind in the picture,
Yeah.
right here. So I'm guessing this height is unique to this installation.
Yeah, I mean, the one, I think it's a fair point that Aaron mentioned, the one advantage, or the advantage of this location is that they will be lower than some of the other ones because of the vehicles that'll be under them, so they have enough space, but this is kind of a typical one. If you want to go back to the site plan, this is number one important. This is the largest bank of carport solar panel.
And that's furthest from the street, too.
Correct, yep. Now.
Yeah, that really,
What's that?
that really gets it all cluttered up there. We're starting with a building that really isn't the most attractive in
It's
the
in their
world.
best interest to put as much solar as there as they can. I mean, how do we know that this is the amount they need to offset the,
Well, we don't, what's the revenue stream from this? I know that the companies, I was told they're doing this for nothing. How much money is coming to us? The company's obviously getting a lot if they're doing the infrastructure for free.
Yeah, they're doing that. It's more the energy offset to the town because this is a
For-
fully electric building, so we're trying to,
And of course, the irony is, at one time, there's probably, all the police cars now are kept inside in the Sally Port, correct? I think that was one of the things with this new building. So basically, there's probably 2 or 3 cars parked at the police station at any one time, so.
Well, are these intended for people who, police officers who drive their personal vehicles in and then park it in there? Is that what the idea would be?
I don't know. Right
Why
now-
are they proposing this instead of putting the solar panels on the roof?
they're doing both.
Yeah, I was going to say
Ah,
that.
they're
They're doing both.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, okay, okay.
You have a pretty high energy consumer building there, so they're
Oh,
trying
yeah, I
to.
imagine it is, sure.
24/7.
All communications equipment.
Didn't
Oh,
they
yeah.
identify the percentage of offset that they would be expecting?
Yeah.
No numbers?
They did. Well, actually, yeah, do you recall?
I heard it once, I'm not going to try to shoot in the dark and guess.
Yeah. I can't answer that question off the top of my head. I was more the.
Makes Mr. LaRusso's building look a lot better.
Well, yeah.
I don't mind so much that bank in the back there, the one right in front of the building with those carports obscuring the front facade of the building and like.
This one here?
Yeah, like if you're from the road and you're coming up,
Yeah.
you're not going to see the front of a police building, you're going to see
Exactly.
carports.
Exactly.
The other two, you can, though, I think, right? If you left the other two in place, you could.
What other two? I see, well, the one long bank one.
Yeah, I think, Greg, you're saying if this wasn't here, you could still see the building. This may obscure the building,
Yeah.
right? And even this one?
I
That
mean,
one?
I'm not a big fan of, it just looks,
Yeah,
it just doesn't look clean.
yeah.
The back along the outside, because there's really nothing back there except the water access road or
Road
whatever
to
it
the
is for the
tower,
tank.
yeah.
So we spent two
Not-
meetings,
I
we
mean-
spent 2 meetings on the landscape, on the streetscape, with the retaining wall and the shrub beds and the trees and that. And now this thing is gonna be the only thing you see. I think it's making a police station into a solar field, personally.
So if, like I said to you, if they deleted this and this and just kept that,
Or even shorten that back one to like, I
think
mean,
about where we are in town though, too. I mean, no one goes up there.
Yeah, that's right, we're in
Right.
a
And if
industrial
there's
area.
if there actually is if it does offset the costs that the town is paying for the building, then there actually is a benefit to it. I just would like to be convinced that they need all of that.
It's a future revenue stream, it's not paying for the building, it's a future revenue stream for electric cost in the town.
Yeah.
Just like the new solar field they're looking at now down by the other one.
I guess
So
for
there's a
me.
benefit to the town,
Yes.
whatever the
Yeah.
benefit
I
is,
understand,
then.
but from, granted, it's in an industrial park, nevertheless, considering what Greg had said, I could live with just limiting that front one, this
Yeah.
guy, yeah. And
I just
the other two
fear
I
it
could live
obscures
with.
the front of the building and you need to clearly identify a police station.
yeah. Could you live with this one and that one?
I could, but
I mean, it could, yeah.
Because there is, like I said, there is a value to the town in this case. I mean,
And right beside that is.
But that's the smallest one.
500-foot tower, too.
What's that?
Right in front of that is the 500-foot tower, so basically the front of the building's gonna be totally obscured.
If that's the triangular
Yeah,
item
that
right there.
triangle is
Yeah,
the
right.
big fenced-in
Right
Metacomet tower,
Right.
which is
That you're gonna,
gorgeous.
that you're gonna be able to see from everywhere in town.
I mean, you want it to look nice, obviously, but there is a value to it, to the town. I mean,
But that's the smallest one of the three, and it looks like, in terms of square footage, it looks to be the smallest. It's-
this one
it's-
here?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
narrower
Yeah,
and
yep.
shorter, so.
I mean, does the revenue stream, like, is this like sort of what they need to meet whatever capacity that they're trying to pull from solar? And that's how they've laid it out? Or they're just trying to maximize as much space as they possibly can?
it's more of a maximization to a degree, so.
No,
like
they
I
didn't
said,
put-
this is
They didn't
working
put it along the
backward.
front there, right, there's a whole bunch of parking spaces along the front, they didn't do that.
At some point, we gotta like call bullshit, right?
Yeah.
It's like-
I mean, there's 3 people there at a time.
So as I'm here to say to you,
Yeah.
this is
Right here.
Livable?
highly important, very important.
Fine.
I'd
And
like to see,
then, you know, as we go down,
I'd like to see the cash flow numbers, because obviously the person paying for all this infrastructure, the company's gonna be making a lot of money. I'd like to see what the return's gonna be, and if they're guaranteed returns, and for how long.
And when does the town start benefiting?
For how long, yeah.
When, I mean,
yeah, so if you were, I'm not the numbers guy on this, to be able to provide it to you. However, if you were, you know, amenable to proven, subject to seeing, you know, the backup for this, so you were.
Right, I wouldn't go that far.
No?
I'd like to see the numbers first, but I mean, you know, basically, we've got, a public safety building is a feature of the character of our town. Go to Medfield, go to Franklin, go to Walpole.
they all look
I
good,
mean,
yeah.
this thing here is, it's taking a building that they may do for financial, it's really cluttering the thing up as far as I'm concerned, because no one will be ever parked underneath there. I would like to see the revenue numbers, though, because, like I said, no one's paying for that much infrastructure with not a decent return.
I agree. I think we need somebody to explain to us the benefit to the town. Not just
Right now, the
the
town is.
theoretical benefit.
Right now, the town is in the plans, I was told by the maintenance department, to put in another solar field. The solar field we have generates around $220,000 a year in income for the town,
Yeah.
so it's electric bill. They're in the plans now to put one adjacent to that, or right nearby there, that's gonna be over 3 times the size, which is great. It's backed by the dump area. I don't think there's any residential around, and it's what is a perfect site for something like that.
It's our electric bill every year.
I know.
I mean, what is it? Does anybody know?
I think that, I had talked that before, most of our electric bill was covered by the solar field. Now things are changing with the new buildings, but if they bring this new extra solar field online.
I don't believe we are anymore. That's not-
Right, right.
Yeah, we're-
If I could suggest, perhaps for our next meeting, we could ask Matt to come by, because he gave a pretty thorough explanation.
Yeah,
of
yeah, no,
everything.
he'll be disappointed I didn't carry the ball for him, but, I tried. Yeah, obviously Matt would be the point person.
I had a quick question. Why are they flat? It's like the worst possible orientation of solar panel.
Well, those are just some, they're, if you,
The view
they're,
at the bottom right,
Yeah, the cross section at the bottom.
why are they showing them flat or and for a couple of reasons, right? It's not gonna shed snow, but maybe that's the intent.
So it's not going to shed. Technology is more up to date than their car model too. That's like a 90s.
a 65 Mustang?
Yeah.
Yeah, and with that long strip, if they were on any type of angle, you could probably eliminate the other two and get just as much benefit from the long
I
strip.
think if they had the same 10 pitch that's on a roof solar field, that's all you'd see. It'd block the whole building.
I think don't they face them?
I agree. It's an odd layout and angle for a solar field. Maybe they're so efficient they work. I don't know, but maybe they're so inefficient they have to double the size.
See over
of
on the
it,
right-hand
which
side
I think
there?
is what
Yeah.
Gary's point is.
North,
I don't know if, well, I think what we could do is,
Did they study the shadow field from that Gigundo tower?
Yeah, it's gonna pass.
why don't
right
we
over
have, I can have Matt, and actually, regret it now. The guy actually was offered to come in to explain it, so, one of the technical aspects of it, so.
Is there any street view, like sketch of what this looks like from eye level instead of the overview? I know there's pictures of the building, there's color, I mean, they've drawn this building out. Have they put these things in those drawings
Yeah,
to see what it looks like?
To simulate,
From, like,
Photoshop
just-
them in and see what it look like.
Just standing on Sharon Ave?
I don't think so, but
Okay.
it's not to say we couldn't have something done like that to get a better idea what it's gonna look like.
There's a rendering of the building from Sharon.
If you could do that,
If you don't want to eliminate those two, if that's like a big selling point, then, I would say I'd need
Well,
to
why
see
don't
it
we,
from Sharon Avenue before
Yeah, so I think the best thing is, I think we're okay time-wise, I can't remember.
This is a modification, too.
Yeah, it was more or less, thinking of time.
Rich, if you're going to get drawings, if that's possible, get them, 2 or 3 of them. One of them has all 3, one that eliminates just the front one eliminates the
Yeah.
front one, and the next
Yeah.
one, just so that
Yeah.
you could see the various possibilities.
We need a street
Yeah.
view profile to see what it looks like from the street.
Yeah.
And just to clarify the point here, are we taking a vote to approve this, or are we simply being
I
asked
hope
for our
not.
input?
I hope we're asking just for input.
Right. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that, because I don't think that would hold anything up per se. I think
Well, no, you would need to take a vote.
This is going to modify the.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's a modification
No,
of the
you would
plan.
be, yeah, because you would have to modify your previous approval,
But we could just continue it.
but, so I would need a vote, but, I mean, obviously not tonight, because I know that you could
Well, it's,
fill in some details here, but,
is it a minor or major modification?
well, I was hoping it would be minor.
I know you're hoping, but, I mean, is it?
Is it?
You're taking the footprint of that building and you're adding probably
Yeah.
20 to 25% of the footprint on a solar coverage, perhaps more.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, it's going
Yeah,
to
that's
be
more
10,000 square feet.
that's
of
not
solar
like
panels
changing
in
a
a parking
building
lot.
by 5 feet,
Or the color.
or the color footprint.
Well, we certainly could, again, if you want to just take it as not a minor.
I'd like to get the cash flow problems on this,
Okay.
and I'd like to get a picture of the
The street.
the police building in North Attleboro where you live. What are you kidding?
If we could get a mock-up street
Like
view.
this.
No, I think,
You got a point, if you go.
We need to know what it looks like.
Gorgeous. I mean, it's a.
Because it's on a
It
main
takes
drag.
character of our town.
It's on a main drag, but this isn't.
That ship has sailed.
no, I mean, there's a balance. I completely understand that, the aesthetics of it.
Okay, so we're gonna get drawings, we hope,
Yeah.
and we're gonna get a look at the financial.
We're going to invite Matt.
Yeah.
Okay,
Invite
now,
Matt to-
what?
invite Matt to come
Yes.
over and give his
Yes.
Yeah,
presentation.
I'll have Matt.
Now, it says here also change exterior paint. What are they proposing to do there?
Paint scheme of masonry walls.
They're not gonna paint the masonry wall, which I thought was a good idea, because you paint that, and that's a chronic
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Keep
Yeah.
painting.
maintenance problem. Plus, I thought the design they showed me anyway looked pretty good.
So then it's like natural stone.
Right. Right.
I didn't even realize it was painted to begin with.
Stone with PV
That was easy,
qualities.
right,
They were
Rich?
gonna be painting this, I think the
Yeah,
stone is
there's
a
one
tan
other
color. I think they're gonna be painting it navy blue or something.
I don't remember that. That sounds awful.
Commented on that when they did it.
Yeah.
I got one last item on this building. Or the site, I guess we should say. They don't have what they want to be able to do in the front of the building, there's a guardrail going along here because they have that retaining wall. They wanted to be able to take the light poles, which are in a grass strip, and put them behind the guardrail, so that way you have the curb, grass, guardrail, and then the light pole will be behind it.
Now you're really getting a cumulative effect for a major modification. We've got anything, the lights, solar. Wow.
Well, and the reason why they're doing this is because they did change up. There was a little, probably attention to detail paid on the site design a little bit with the spacing. So there is an advantage to do this actual change because there would be, there is the guardrail and the light posts, as you know, the base of them, they'll be set into the grass, so that way they'll sit, so they have the rail coming across, and then the light post will be under it, so it creates a little bit better
Is it a wood,
spacing.
is it a wood guardrail? Don't say it's metal that's got a patina.
What's that?
Nothing.
I can't vouch for this guardrail.
You sure you want to join us, Gary?
I think Rich likes being on this other side of the table.
Yeah, this is not the side of the table.
Looks,
That's timber.
All right, okay.
Timber. That's a plus, right?
That's a plus.
All right, so that was the other change that was asked to talk about today, and I think it was worthwhile to discuss with the board. I think materially it doesn't make a difference, but I think from the site,
You get the drawing that shows that guardrail, let me just look at switch.
yeah, so you can see from plan view.
I think it's interesting too, even the color. Like, I remember the architect or whoever was presenting it at the time made a pitch that the blue and white coloration of the building was appropriate, this and that. And,
Like a police car.
yeah, and I mean, we had some comments about what the right color of the canopy was and the door. I don't remember if this was DRB or here.
they originally didn't want to paint
But
the
it's like,
backside.
but like the whole building was blue and white, but now it's gonna be blue, white, and brown,
With a
right?
blue stripe.
So, I mean, I would be great to see it.
The building colors?
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. My school colors are brown and blue, so that, I know they go together pretty well.
So again, just for the audience at home, since it's on the big screen, we're talking about which you can't really see in this plan, but
The guardrail.
there is a guardrail here.
Yeah.
Where and the retaining wall there. And you did discuss, did come in previously to do the ready rock wall there along that section as opposed to doing
Yep.
so by doing that, that's increased the block size a little bit, so every little bit, inches, so to speak, kind of help with the overall site layout. So the thought would be have the ready rock wall there, and then the guardrail, so then just put the light stick post behind the guardrail, so just shift it back a little bit.
The wall's in place, right?
The wall's in place, so really it's just a matter of shifting the light pole behind. So the guardrail comes up front, you got the light post behind, which actually would protect the light post if somebody gets a little crazy driving.
It's a good place to drive crazy, right in front of the police station.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing.
You know, somebody could be apprehended, come in there and they're, had a little issue leaving, I don't know, you never know. Things happen, right?
Things happen, right.
I don't see an issue with that.
Okay, Rich, thank you. All right, 28 Cleveland Street, estate lot, endorsed my life, and we do that at the end as well. That, I think, completes the agenda. We got two Mylars to endorse.
Approved minutes.
Any other
Approved minutes.
items tonight?
Minutes? Approved the minutes.
Minutes, yes. Our ex-clerk maybe have one set of minutes, right?
Just
job, Rich.
for the ones from March, right?
Yeah, we don't
Yeah, I
have
didn't
April
see
yet.
anything that needed to be changed in March, unless
Okay.
anybody else did.
Oh.
No. All right, so in that case, I move to accept the minutes from March 28th.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any other items for this evening's agenda?
I just have lot release form for you guys to sign.
Yeah.
And,
Plan, that's it.
bond.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. That was the
Right, there we
fastest
go.
part I've ever seen.
You didn't even get finished saying.
Before 9 o'clock, how about that?
So
huh?
move, second.
All right, so
We're done.
pass those signature things around and we'll get at it.